Wait a minute. Good evening and welcome to the TalkWrite podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Stinnett, and tonight my co-host, Nick Sullivan, is on the road. He spent the holidays with his mother in Tennessee, and he is probably somewhere in Pennsylvania right now. And he promised he'd be tuning in. So, hey, Nick, welcome to Pennsylvania Construction. Oh, now I got to mute this. Hang on.
You got to mute your YouTube.
My co-host, Nick Sullivan, is on the road. He spent the holidays with his mother in Tennessee, and he is probably now you can just hear me doing it all over again.
Take over, Don.
All right, I'm sitting in for Nick. This is Don Rich.
Doing it all over.
Happy tonight to have Nick Harvey.
Take over, Don.
Have Nick Harvey and his narrator Kim Breton with us. Hi guys.
Hey.
It's chaos.
Sorry about that. I left. I turned YouTube on and signed on to it.
Kim Breton with us.
Don, someone else still has it going. Don, mute yours and see if it's you.
Yeah, if you have YouTube open, pause it. I left. Pause YouTube.
Whoever just, there we go. It's stopped now. Whoever did that.
Okay.
It might have been me.
YouTube is paused on vid. It's paused on video, but the chat still works.
Cool.
Okay. Well, we got past the opening.
We just made Nick look like a superstar, although there was nothing he could do about our incompetence.
So, anyway, Don, go ahead and introduce our guests while I take care of some backstage work.
All right. Well, we've got Nick Harvey, the author of the AJ series and Nora Summer series, and his narrator, Kim Breton, joining us from actually across the pond.
Mm-hmm.
We'll say hi.
Hello.
Where are you exactly, Kim?
Okay, so I'm in a little village called Funtington.
Say that carefully.
I know, right? Funtington. It's in, actually, I don't even think it's Hampshire. It's like right on the Hampshire and like Sussex border.
Nice. Nice
Absolutely,
area.
yes, it's lovely. Yeah.
And
Yes.
Kim's not just into narrating. She also has done a lot of stage acting. As a matter of fact, in 2012, she was voted the best actress in the Nashville scene, as she's now living in Nashville when she's not over visiting family, and is a voice coach, does commercials, and I just learned she also plays guitar.
Yeah. All of those. And I direct as well sometimes when they let
Right.
me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I knew that. And your husband is a huge rock guy.
Well, yeah, he used to be an artist, and he was signed to Atlantic as an artist, and now he's still an artist, but he's mainly like a songwriter. He's signed to Sony, and so we live there in Nashville. We have a studio, and yeah.
I saw online. I saw the picture of
Go where the music takes
studio.
us.
The studio is really cool. So when Cheryl and I were driving across country, we stopped in Nashville and finally got to meet Kim and her husband Lee and her lad Herbie, and we got the whole tour. So the studio is underneath the house, and it is really, really cool. The coolest thing in the whole wide world is his humidity controlled guitar room, and
Oh, wow.
so yeah, in the corner of the studio is an English telephone box, the red telephone boxes with all the glass panels. And you open the front door and it has a secret, and it's got the phone thing in there and everything. But the back is actually another door, and it goes into the humidity controlled guitar room.
Oh, that's like Get Smart.
Oh, it's like a TARDIS.
It is a bit
Doctor Who.
like
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
very James Bond. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that hasn't ended up in a book yet.
No, I probably will. We've done like some filming there. We've had like some fun times. Like Whispering Bob came and did a TV show, and we had Emmylou Harris and Brandy
Oh,
Clark
wow.
and some cool people singing in the house and in the studio too. It was cool. Yeah.
One thing I
I'm trying to
neglected.
play the guitar. I've got, how many guitars do we have in here right now, Jordan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 guitars and 6 guitars and 2 basses. But that's not even all of them.
What
I just
kind of
like the
music
look
you like,
of them.
Wayne?
Trop rock, Jimmy Buffett, Eric Stone, Don Middlebrook,
Yeah.
easy 3-chord songs.
Yeah.
And I
Glad-
forgot to mention your books too, Kim. How many books have you written now?
I've written a couple, and I'm working on next year. I'm going to be bringing out a couple more. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I've got to tell you, I have listened to one audiobook my whole life. And it's,
Yeah.
of course, it's part of what I'm going to be working on in the next year, bringing my books into audiobooks. And, but so I got on your website and I started listening to all the different samples, and it was just amazing. The difference in the tempos, of course, the difference in the accents and the voices and everything. And I noted where you said that the connection between the author and the narrator is very intimate and intense. How much? I guess it varies from author to author.
Yes, that's really cool. You notice that it really does. So you get to know, like, the author if you're lucky, and luckily I got to know Nick. But you get to know the author if you're lucky, and you read their work, and every book, you know how it is. Every book requires a different sort of like voice, and even though it's my voice, like you say, the tempo and the feel changes, and then obviously you've got like accents within that, and I put a lot of work into accents, but then Nick will give me a scene where I'm narrating first person teenage Norwegian, and then I'm speaking to like a 50-year-old Glaswegian, a couple of Caymanians, and maybe an Irish person and a Londoner thrown in there. In which case, you have to really take your time with it, and then it all comes together in the editing because
That's cool. He
they're
said you have
hard, a lot of people to keep in your head when they're from such different places in the world.
And before we go too far, being lazy, it's like midnight there and she's in her pajamas.
I'm totally in my pajamas, drinking champagne in my pajamas. I'm on holiday.
That's good.
And she's
It's
pretending that she only does that late at night.
Mhm.
Yeah, this could be.
Yeah.
And I
We've
understand.
just been over the pub on the road, little country pub. It's been lovely.
I understand you have a Norwegian friend that you bounce off some of Nora's little
Yes.
idiosyncrasies or words.
Her name is Siv Klinderud, and she is really like a famous actress in Norway. But when she comes over here, nobody knows that she's like so famous over in Norway. And she also does voiceovers, and we've known each other since we were 19 years old, and we were at drama school together.
Wow.
And so it's mainly swear words. So thanks for that, Nick. So I'll email Siv and I'll be like, how do I say this? And she's like, you really want to say that?
But if you're saying it in a foreign language, you're not really saying it.
Exactly. Yes, that's very true. Yeah. But my son has a much better Norwegian accent than I do. Shout something Norwegian.
It's been so long.
Go on, anything.
Jeg og en guttene drikker øl.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, he's got that little like that I don't really have.
I don't know. You do pretty good.
With the different paces that you or tempos, as from book to book, from author to author, does that just come to you, or is that something that's more guided by each of the authors you work with?
Yeah, so you kind of like you speak to the author and you read the book and you get like a feel for it, and then you go, okay, this is this requires me to be like, more fast paced. So, with Nick's stuff, it's like you have like action sequences where you're really, really fast. But there's no like love or anything like, we're not doing romance where it's a completely different kind of read, and a different listener, I think, as well. So like if you're doing a romance book, you tend to be a little gentler and the voice is less dramatic. As a narrator, I tend to be quite dramatic with my reads because I come from like the theatre, and that's great for some people, and then some people are not so into that. And so I find like with the romance stuff, I tend to just tone it down a little bit and try and be a little bit more gentle, really. So,
how many times do you read a book before you start the process?
Gosh, it really depends. So I always dip in, and I always like look for like common characters. If I know a character is in it a lot, then I know that I have to really know this character and know their voice. It's good to know if somebody dies pretty quick, because then you could end up putting a lot of effort into a character and using like your best voices for it, and then they're dead the next chapter. So I like to kind of like know that.
Don't waste a good voice on this one.
Exactly.
Just make them Canadian.
Right. Oh my
They're going to die anyway.
Yeah.
I
right?
apologize to all our Canadian viewers.
All my Americans sound Canadian anyway.
Yeah. I don't even know why I chose Canadian films.
Other than Nora, who's his toughest character to do? Reg? No,
Reg is really easy. I find a London accent really easy, and I find I've said this before, like old men, I can nail those. I'm like really good with old men character voices. I love doing them. I feel like I could really like get there. Nora is exhausting because it's written first person mostly.
Well, whose fault is that? Well, not the writing in first person, but somebody came to me and said, I think I can do the accent through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Somebody said that.
I did say that.
You do the narrative in voice?
So I did the whole thing like Nora, just in this voice, and it becomes very exhausting because you can do it for so long, and then you have to kind of stop and have a cup of coffee and think about it and come back down to earth and then come back to it. And then sometimes I'll go off on a weird place, and then I'll have to bring myself back again and then maybe re-record a few like pages. It just takes me longer. You noticed that, Nick, right? It takes me longer to do a Nora book.
I'm not surprised either.
Yeah.
So the narrating was just a logical progression from stage acting.
Yeah, I like it because I have more control. I really do. I like, like all of us, I think we all have this in common. We like to sit in a room and like go into our heads and work alone. So I get to do that, and although I like to be sociable and work with a group, when you're working alone, as a narrator, you get to be the actor, every single actor in the piece. You get to be the sort of like the overall narrator. You also get to direct yourself. It's like eating the whole pie.
We got a couple of questions from our YouTube audience. First, Yvonne Edwards comments, she likes your Westie picture there in the background.
It's probably not her Westie picture, but it's whoever she's staying with Westie picture.
Not me. Oh yeah, it was a Christmas card. But I do have a Westie.
It's a Christmas card. Okay.
Yes.
And then Travis asks, how do you develop each character's voice? Voice in quote marks.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Do you and Nick talk about it beforehand,
Yes.
or does he give you notes? Or because we do, Nick Sullivan and I do a lot of back and forth on characters, and I used to try to pick characters to make it difficult for him, and then I learned it would sound a whole lot better if he helped me, and I used characters with voices that he could do really well.
Yeah.
And so, how do you guys do it?
We do we work really closely, and Nick will send me, like, if he's got inspirational photographs, and we'll talk about, like, if you were to cast this using kind of movie stars that I could know or could look up, and then I'll open on my I'll have various pages open with like YouTube things of that actor speaking. And then when that character is doing a scene, I'll have a little listen to that actor, and then I'll kind of tune in. And I think as a listener, you don't notice huge differences, but you notice enough to know it's a different person speaking, and that's all we can create, because it's Nick's story first and foremost. And my job is to deliver the story. But having like those subtle differences, like going like, okay, these are the actors that we've cast in these roles, and so I'm doing sort of like a bad impression, I guess, of all these actors.
That's exactly what Nick says,
right?
Not Brit Nick, Hicknick.
Mm-hmm.
And he a lot of times I'll give him an idea of, okay, this character sounds like Mike from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And then he'll try to do Mike from Breaking Bad, but it doesn't sound anything like it, which is good because I don't want it to, but it sounds kind of like it. But he remembers trying to do that voice, and each time he tries to do that voice, it comes out the same. So it works out really well.
Yes.
We talk about it less as we go on, quite honestly. I mean, I trust Kim completely. So and in the AJ series, we're catching up because we started late. So I don't know how many books into it when we started. And so we're catching up. So you've just done number 7, I think, and going on to 8.
Yeah, I think I'm about to do 8.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Next month, yeah.
But then the Nora series we stay current with. So once you have the base characters, like your core group of characters that are going to be reoccurring, we spent quite a bit of time early on doing that and kind of exchanging stuff. And I think I've said this the last time we were on the show with AJ, I didn't have a voice in my head, and I was actually struggling with it to hear her voice in my head. And when Kim did the sample of it, I went, well, that's not what I had in mind, and it's perfect. So it's important to give the narrator, I think, that kind of freedom in a lot of cases. And by the description in the book, she has an idea if he's from Scotland, from England. And then when they're from England, she'll mix them, like she was saying earlier, she'll mix those accents up a little bit. So you don't have two guys that sound exactly the same. Like in Valley of the Rays that you just did, there's a part of the story is these 3 friends that are on Grand Cayman on holiday together. So they could all sound the same, right? Because they're all probably from the same area of the country. So she had to mix it up a little bit, and brilliant. And actually, Russell, the character Russell, you made from the north of England, it's so funny. It's brilliant. Now that character is based on a friend of mine called Russell, but
he's not northern.
He's not from the north of England, so I can't wait for him to listen to it.
How many are there? Is there a large variety of accents within England?
Massive number.
People talk about Southern accent. Well, I don't have a Southern accent. I have a Florida accent. And somebody from South Carolina has a different accent. Georgia is different. Tennessee, Kentucky, all this. Nobody has a Southern accent. It's all a lot more localized. So I imagine it's kind of. Yvonne was talking about the Cockney accent. I don't even know what Cockney is.
Yeah, I don't think anyone does anymore. I think it's one of those dying accents. Now you sort of like you go to, if you're doing a younger character from London, you tend to just do a sort of like a standard working London, as opposed to Cockney, which is a very specific East End thing. But the East End has become so gentrified; it's not what it used to be, So that accent dies along with it. It's a shame. I recently did a book where it was set in Manchester, and so all the characters were from around that area, and they were mainly female, and that was a real challenge. But then when you know that like Manchester and Liverpool are like, what are they, Nick? Are they like 30 miles? It's not, is it?
Yeah, 30 or 40 miles.
In accent.
Yeah, and like your Manchester accent sort of
Really?
sounds like this, Manchester, whereas your Liverpool is more like this, and it's more far back in the mouth. And so I kind of played around with that, like going, okay, so I can do Manchester as one and Liverpool, and I can take it over to that sort of like that other side of Yorkshire. Maybe I can go over there to that coast and bring a couple of those characters in. And it was the only way to differentiate. Otherwise, it becomes very hard to narrate loads of characters if they're all from the same place and they're all women of the same age. It's very difficult.
Yeah, we have a lot of varied accents and dialects, and even like an English country accent, which is very pronounced. Oh, a country, I'm from the countryside. It changes enormously from where you go. And you go from, they all developed because the country is so old, and we used to have these towns. Everything started as a village, became a town, became eventually a city, and now they've all blended together, right?
And 30 miles apart, that's a 3-day ride.
Exactly. So, when they were in, if you lived in Oxford and you talk about London, that was a long way away. Now it's an hour drive. Well, now it's about a 3-hour drive on but
on a personal note, since I've got both of you on here, do you know where Lincolnshire is?
Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's it?
Like kind of like
North.
upper middle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do they have a specific kind of accent there?
I'm sure they. Yeah, I'd have to look up what it is. I'm sure they do, but
Okay.
I guarantee they do. It changes enormously. Like if you go up to the north and go on to the east side, or go to the west side, which is probably 100 miles apart or a little bit more, it's a massive change and a massive difference. It's huge.
I asked because I've never been there. I've been to London once, but my ancestors came from Lincolnshire
Oh, wow. Yeah.
in 1641.
Really?
I love the way you say Lincolnshire. I like that. Because we say we're lazy. We say Lincolnshire.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we
it
say
depends on
Shire.
it depends on where you're from here in the States too. If you're from Massachusetts, it'd be Linkshire.
Wow.
I mean, there's a town in Massachusetts it's spelled Worcestershire.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Worcester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same in England, Worcester. Yeah. Like Worcester sauce. Do you say Worcester sauce or do you say Worcestershire sauce?
Worcestershire.
I say Worcester sauce.
Worcestershire.
Really
All
lazy.
rhyming.
Yeah.
But it's spelled Worcestershire.
Wow.
Words. It's, I mean, the same word can be written in the case of neighbor and color, written differently, definitely pronounced differently, and the accents. That's what makes audiobooks so cool.
Yeah.
But I'm like Don, I don't listen to audiobooks. I've listened to my own audiobooks as I critique Nick's narration. But other than that, I've never listened to a full audiobook. I don't have that kind of time. I don't have time to read anymore.
Yeah, right. I don't think any of us do, right?
I struggle.
Yeah.
I struggle with reading, and we all try and read each other's stuff, so it makes it you're tricky to fit it all in. And Don reads lightning fast. But
I can't. I really find it hard to listen to audiobooks. It's not the way I consume a book. I need to read it.
That's good advertising for your business, Kim.
Oh no,
No, that's the truth though. I want to absorb the book and then see the characters in my own mind.
Yeah. And sometimes the narrator can get in the way of that sometimes, can't they? Or it's going too fast, or you're doing something and you miss a little bit and then you have to rewind. And I find that,
Well, like Nick said, when Nick Sullivan narrated first audition for my book, I had this voice of Rusty Thurman, the bar owner, and I had this voice in my head, and his voice wasn't anything close to it, but it blew mine out of the water. And I closed the auditions right after hearing that, and he's been my narrator ever since. Got a couple more questions here on YouTube. Let's see, where was I? Travis asked, how did you become a narrator? You started out in acting and then voice acting and voiceovers?
Yeah, I think it's a natural progression because I'm in a house with a recording studio, and I've always, like being a musician as well, I've dabbled in recording. So I had a knowledge of how to do it, and loving story and storytelling. And it was just a case of putting them together and having the patience to figure it out, because there's so much technical stuff you have to get through. And so it took me a couple of months of really playing with it and figuring out how I did this. And now I'm so fast. So before, like a finished hour of audio would take me about 7 hours to do one finished hour. And now it's easily on a good day it's 2.5, and on a not so good it's maybe 3. That's pretty good. I'm pretty pleased.
One thing about when you start doing audiobooks, and for Don, who hasn't started yet, this is, I think it'd be interesting to see what Wayne thinks about it, but it changed the way I write.
Yeah,
So,
I've said that many, many times.
Yeah, I hear Kim's version of my characters in my head. And even when I come in with a new character, I start hearing what I think Kim will do with that character. And so I'll write down, Reg or AJ or Nora, whoever might be saying something, and then I'll be like, I can hear it. I can hear it. And it's like, no, she wouldn't say it like that. She said it like this.
Oh, wow.
And you end up changing it a little bit. And it's really cool, because I think it improves my writing.
And Nick started narrating mine after I had 5 or 6 published, and it totally changed the way I wrote the 7th, 8th, 9th, and through the 25th, 32nd or something like that. But yeah, it's most definitely, and you'll find this out, Don, when you get your narrator and start getting into it, it will change the way you write.
I'm terrified of the process of trying to find the right voice for the characters.
I didn't find it that bad, to be honest. I was intimidated with it felt like it was a huge mountain, because for me, I went on ACX and listened through all the auditions, and they have a filter, you can narrow it down. So, by the kind of voice you want and all that kind of thing. And then you start listening to them, and it takes a little bit because you get saturated with that. But I was able to narrow it down to 2 people in a reasonable time frame. I actually was concerned that I had found 2 that I really liked that quickly. And then you have them do a sample, you send something to them and they do a sample piece. And
make sure that what you send to them is something that is definitely has your main character, as many of your main characters as possible, and more than just one. You want at least 4 different characters, so you can hear 4 different voices plus the narrative.
And doing getting them to do a little more, like a big ask is okay, because then that also lets you know the kind of the character of the person that you're about to work with, and whether you can work together, and whether they're going to commit to you and you're going to have a good working relationship.
Yeah.
So you can say, I'm going to need to hear 5 minutes. That's not a big ask for a narrator. When you're in that kind of that shortlist mode, I'll quite happily do 5-10 minutes, because you want to make sure that you have you're going to have a good relationship.
Gotcha. I mean, how many?
And the other thing is to get some good headphones so that you can really listen to the sound, because sometimes you want to make sure that you've got somebody who is recording themselves well and understands how to record themselves. And most people do, but there are, maybe people who are just starting out maybe need a little bit more time to figure out their system, but make sure it's not poppy or echoey in the room, that there's a good professional sound quality.
I bought really, really nice headphones just for that. I wanted to hear all the sound, all the background noises, all the pops, all the hisses, the breathing, everything. And so far, 32 books once. Nick has had one errant sound in 32 books.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
That's
over
amazing.
2.5 million words.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, my headphones, I just asked Nick Sullivan, what should I get? And he said these, and they weren't, crazy expensive ones. And yeah,
Yeah,
so
they
that's what
don't
I've
have to
used.
be now, do they? Like you can get like you just have to know what you're getting, and it has to be able to hear everything, and
Yeah.
make sure there's no background noise. Yeah.
Okay, backing up a little bit, Yvonne asked earlier, she says, then it is tiring to narrate a book, like physically tiring.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
you're sitting in a confined space for, I'm assuming, at least 3 or 4 hours with breaks every hour, maybe. So,
Yeah, for me, it's all day. Sometimes I'm in there until 2 a.m. I'm
oh,
in my
wow.
cupboard. I say I live in a cupboard.
Nick does the same. He sends the books to me in fourths.
Yeah. Oh,
He'll-
okay.
He'll send me the first, if it's going to be 8 hours, he'll send me the first 2 hours. Then the next day, while he's recording the second 2 hours, I'm quality checking the first 2 hours. So by
Yeah.
the time we get done in 4 days, on that 5th day, it's ready to go.
That's great. Two complete hours of an audiobook in one day is really tiring. I put in my schedule that I'm going to do 1 hour, and then I sometimes will go over that, or I'll have a lot of things that kind of like take up more time. Like if I have to look up a lot of Spanish.
When you're talking about hours, what does that equate to in words?
About 400 words an hour.
I don't know. I haven't thought about. No, it's more than that, isn't it?
No,
Uh,
it's 400
divide-
words per page.
Yeah,
10,000.
divide 70,000 words by about 8 hours, and that'll get you there. About 75,000 words by 8.
Yeah.
So it's about 10,000 words an hour. Yeah, a little,
Yeah,
little less, probably
8 to
about
10,000.
8,000. Yeah, 8 to
So
10,000 words an hour.
one finished hour of audio can take a narrator anything from 2 hours if it's just exposition. Oh my gosh, that's so easy. And there's no difficult words. You can just like churn that out. If you have a lot of conversation, that massively slows you down. And then if you have like pronunciations that you have to look up or accents that you're still playing with, that then slows you down. So so you can set yourself an hour, and that could take you 2, or it could take you 7. It literally is like, it could be that crazy.
What's exposition?
Like when you're just describing something, but there's no one talking. Yeah.
Narrative.
Gotcha.
Narrative. Yeah.
Got it. How did you find Kim?
How did I find Kim?
Yeah.
At street corner. Yeah, she was there with a can, and she was just down on her luck.
Listen to
and I
this.
thought I'd give her a chance. No, through that ACX stuff, she had a portfolio on there and samples of a lot of her work, and I listened to the first bit, and I'm like, oh, this might be one. So then I listened to a whole bunch more, and I found something she'd done before, and I went, that's the kind of voice. Because like you said, the voices vary. The whole narrative voice moves depending on what the story is and the kind of genre. And I found something and sent her a note. This is all through the ASX system. You can do this. And I sent her a note and said, this is the one I really like for pacing and stuff and what have you. And would you like to do a test piece? And then you send her the bit that you want her to read, and she does it, sends it back.
And you were great, Nick. We did quite a lot of toing and froing, and you were really clear with me. You were like, I'm down to like 2 voices, and so I'll need to hear a little bit more. And it was really clear, and I appreciated your honesty, and so we just kind of figured it out, didn't we?
Yeah, and ultimately,
how many total auditions did you listen to?
I only had 2 people actually produce an audition for me. I listened to,
and then you went and found,
oh my God, 50, 60, at least, maybe more voices I listened to through the ACX examples, and narrowed it down to those 2. I narrowed it down to like 8, and then kept listening back and forth.
I didn't know you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just put it up for auditions and Nick was the 63rd. narrate
Wow. Well,
63rd
you
audition.
got- You
Yeah.
you scored gold with Nick, didn't you?
Yeah, that's one way
Some
you
I
can do
could
it.
some I could discount right away. They didn't have the right voice, didn't have the right, pacing or attitude. Some had no knowledge of. That's another thing to put in your script that they're going to read, Don, is put some boating knowledge in there. If
Yeah.
they pronounce bow line, just pass, because they're
I
gonna
did
really
that.
struggle.
What was the other one? There was that really obvious one that I got so horribly wrong. Was it like that step thing? What's that?
Oh, what was it? I remember that. Yeah. I
It's
know
a
what you're talking
word that
about.
I really should know.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was now, but yeah. But that's what the QC checks for, right? So, and that
Yeah.
stuff narrows down really quickly. So, there's not that many varied terms that we use at the end of the day. There's probably 40 of them or 30 of them, whatever it is. So after you've done a few, you've got it figured out. That's one thing is, if I have to go back to Kim and say, hey, no, this is pronounced this way, that's it. She gets it every time after that. So,
But at least have the word gunnel in the script.
That
Yeah.
was the word.
Gunnel.
I said
Gunnel.
Gunwell. I did.
yeah,
that.
she said Gunwell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that. But you
I
know
love
what's
my ass
Most
off.
people, unless you're a boater, you don't know this.
Yeah.
And
But it's lovely.
we
I love
write
learning
tropical,
things.
we write sea adventure fiction. So the narrator has to be knowledgeable in boating
Get there fast.
Or educated.
or
Yeah.
educated.
Yeah.
Or just
So-
hungry to learn things. I think I would be great in a pub quiz now. I know so much.
I put a glossary in the back of mine now.
Oh,
I had so
nice.
many questions. Well, what's this?
You should get your narrator to read the glossary as well. That'd be fun.
Mm.
There's a word that is spelled FORECASTLE.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd need to write that down. I'm sorry.
It's spelled forecastle, but it's pronounced forecastle.
Folks,
Oh, I haven't done that. We haven't done that one yet.
no, but you
And-
will.
Okay.
Yes,
Normally
that's-
it's got two apostrophes in it.
Mhm.
FO'C''SAL.
Yeah, the new one that's coming out that you'll do, because we're behind in the AJ series, you'll catch up to it probably, hopefully at the end of this
Hopefully
year.
sooner than last year.
Yeah, hopefully. But it's anchor
She's
point,
on-
and it's
she's
got a
on the-
whole.
She's on the 5th AJ book.
No,
No,
7th or 8th. 8th, I think.
you just did
Eighth?
7th, and you're about to do the
Yeah,
8th.
that's the 8th.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
how
you
many
just
are
did
there now?
Valley
There's
13 comes out next week.
okay.
Yeah, which is anchor point, which is set, half of it's set in the early 1700s. So yeah, you got some good stuff. I'm afraid there are some Spanish in there.
Oh,
But there's
my
lots of
last
English.
one I had Teanu Indian speaking their native language,
There you go.
which is an extinct language.
Yeah. Well,
That's a
that's-
challenge.
There's not many people know that they're reading it wrong. You could read it however the heck you wanted, and there's only
exactly.
like, who's going to call in and say, hey,
There's only 14 people in the world that speak Teanu or
yeah, there you
Ta'in. I don't know how it's pronounced.
Wind talkers.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. What else?
Okay, we've gone over the 30 minutes.
Yes, we have.
Woohoo.
You want to talk about some of your merchandise you've got coming out?
Sure, can do. Yeah, Wayne's to blame for me doing merchandise, because he showed me ages ago that hey, it's easy. I do it through this thing. So then I got all carried away with it. So I do stuff like these. But yeah, I'm actually switching my website provider. So I'm on that project at the moment, which is pretty big, and the store will get moved over, which allows me to do more stuff than outside the single supplier that I had. But it's fun. I do like dive gear, so like rash guards and like leggings and sports bras. And I need to send you a sports bra, Don, and maybe some leggings. I think you'd look pretty cool.
You know,
The
at some point we're going to meet up. You should be careful.
I sent you a shirt. You didn't even wear it tonight.
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
No,
I've got a Ocean and Coast.
There you go. That's very topical.
I love
So-
my mug. I have a Fox and Hounds mug,
Yeah,
cool.
Fox and Hare.
Fox and Hare mug. And Lee really loves the Converse. He's like, I'd wear those. I'm like, well, I'll get you a pair.
Yeah, we got.
Yeah, nice.
It's
stuff.
great. There's so much stuff out there, and it's fun. And I get way too into doing the graphics and stuff for it. So I have more stuff than I probably should have. But yeah, it's at my website, harveybooks.com. Is go to the merchandise store and you can thumb through and find. There's the t-shirts and sweatshirts and mugs and stuff like that. But there's
But
also
there's so much other
dive
stuff
gear.
that's not conventional, right? It's like
Yeah, the dive gear is great. We've got dive gear, Conch Republic divers in Tavernier in the Keys. It carries the line, or is going to carry the line down there. It's AJ Bailey gear, so it's all themed based on the books and AJ Bailey and stuff like that. Mermaid divers, so her dive op is called Mermaid Divers, so we've got a really cool logo for that, and so that stuff's really fun. And then we've got a couple of places now in Cayman that are going to carry the branded for them dive gear as well, so that's fun. Cheryl
Nice.
dives in it. If you see our online videos of diving and stuff like that, you'll see
It's
Cheryl
walking
wearing it.
billboards.
Yeah,
I
That's
mean,
great.
my logo, the Gaspar's Revenge logo, it has the web address. It says Gaspar's Revenge Charter Service, established 1999, www.gaspars-.com. And if
Which
you go
takes
to
you to your website.
gasparsrevenge.com, it takes you right to my store.
There you go. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's all about the, I don't really make money of it. I don't do a high markup on it, just to kind of cover the basic cost of it, because and I give out, I do through my newsletter, I do discounts all the time, because I want people wearing the gear. It's fun to wear, and it gets people talking about the books. So the dive gear, my books are based around a lot of diving. So if they're on a dive boat and someone's wearing the gear and they go, oh, who's Mermaid Divers? Or, hey, I know Mermaid Divers, they're in a book. That's the conversations that I'm
Yep.
hoping will get started.
Two readers start talking. That's
Yep, exactly.
in some foreign country on a dive boat.
Yeah,
It just doesn't get better than that.
exactly. And the best t-shirt ever just went up on my site, and Don poo-pooed it, for Christ's sakes. Come on, Don. I was offering you one. You sent me a, what was it? Bite me?
Oh, that
picture
one.
back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best one ever. So Wayne, I don't know if you saw it. It
I
says,
haven't, no.
it has the letter W and then an anchor next to it.
Well, you said this would work really good with you. It's like, oh, okay.
It says, don't be a wanker.
Don't
And
be a wanker.
and then it's accredited to Reg Moore. So you would be wearing it, telling people, don't be a wanker. So
I saw Jinx put up the same shirt, but it didn't say "Don't be a."
yeah.
And so that's what I originally thought you had put up there. Jeff, where-
That's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
different.
And,
see?
and it's like, okay, so I found one that had two fish hooks that were intertwined, and it said "Bite me."
I like that.
Yeah, but
Here's
it was
one for
fun.
you.
It's an ages old thing in England. But it's been reworked many times. But thanks to Thatch, our friend, who sent me a picture of someone with a shirt like that, and I stole the idea.
So you had it done.
Yeah, it's done. It's on the site now. You can go buy it at my site.
Oh,
I'm
gee,
going to buy that. I want one.
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to order them.
Mhm.
So next show, I'll be wearing it.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. The,
Don, how many books have you written so far?
who?
Yes, Don, you.
Oh, me. Let's see. I'm on 4 and 11, 16.
16.
Yeah.
And you're getting your narrator for the first time soon.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's in the plan for this year.
It's an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. I wanted to make sure that I had enough of a library to make it worthwhile and to keep people's interest.
Hmm.
And so now it's time to start putting them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be fun. Interesting year ahead.
Yeah,
then-
I think 2023 is going to be a lot of fun for a lot of us.
Yeah,
It's, we've had 3 years of just stuff
Yeah.
crammed down our throats, and just I'm done with it.
yeah.
I am totally done with 2020 through 2022.
I'm ready to have some fun. And I'm happy it, and working with Nick now on Priceless is has been a ball. Nick and Deborah Brown, and really enjoying it. And then I just put it all in and put it into ran it through what was it, Grammarly,
Mhm.
and of course I have it set for American English, and when it hit Nick's spot, it just about had a stroke. I was getting all kinds of, what is this? No. So,
I just can't. All these collaborative books, I have to write as I write,
sure.
and then we go through and Americanize it all. But I would trip over myself. I tried to.
It's hard though,
Right
isn't
that
it,
way.
when you're British and you live in America like we do, writing things like color and neighbor, because when you're at school and you're drummed in like the correct spelling and everything, it kind of like goes against yourself to write it the American way. So it's one of those things I tend to dig in on, and I continue to like not let spell check make it American, and it's kind of crazy, really. I should let that go, but
Yeah. Well, I write in UK English in both my series.
Yeah.
So, and the interesting one now is but I do American English for the collab stuff for tropical
Yeah.
authors like Graceless, Timeless, all that stuff, and we'll do it for Priceless, just for consistency. But
who's going to narrate Priceless?
I don't know. We haven't even thought about that actually. Yeah, I don't know.
That today.
I guess we should find out who's going to narrate Shameless also.
I think Steve's guy is
Steve
going to do
Becker's.
it.
Okay.
I think that's what Nick was. He was either saying or he was hoping for. I'm not sure which.
wouldn't it be good to like get like all your narrators together, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of editing when you got narrators or different people.
We'd have to
narrating
hire an
different
engineer to
characters.
do that.
Yeah.
It'd be cool though with
It
one of
would.
them to do all the different voices. I think the group ones where there's what do they call that, a ensemble or whatever it is. There's a fad of that new now, and I think
I've done a lot of those. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think with a lot of people, so it's all changing. That's good. I've listened to some where it's just 2 people doing it, like a man and a woman. And to be honest, I struggle with that badly. It throws me off because someone is doing the narrative, and like if they're doing the narrative in the male voice and then the female says something, then it's all of a sudden this female voice comes in there and says something. And it's very jolting. It pulls me out of the story. But I think the doing it with a whole ensemble like that, it would be like essentially listening to a TV show but not looking at it, or listening to a radio show from the old days. I think it'd be kind of cool.
If you did that, you just have to get a producer. So you'd get a producer, and then they would like put it all together, and
Hick Nick would correct you and say that's called a multicast.
There we go, multicast. Yes.
Right,
When we went to the Audible studio or the Audible headquarters up in New York, they took us on a tour, and we actually went into the production of a multicast, and we were on the engineer side of the glass, and the author was there with his wife, the sound engineers, and all the people that were working behind the scenes. And we're just kind of standing there in the corner, and on the other side of the glass are the 4 actors playing out the part as it comes along.
Yeah.
And one of the actors pointed out something in the dialogue that would sound better if you did this. And so the author changed the book.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. I've done that where we've done it like, with Audible, actually, where we've been on Zoom. There's been like, 6 or 7 actors, and we're all on Zoom, and we're all recording ourselves, but we're hearing and seeing each other. So we're kind of like, you know, playing this like a play. It's a lot of fun. And then we just send off our kind of, you know, the entire recorded thing, and somebody chops it up and puts it all together. And I don't have to do any of that. That's quite fun. And then I've also done it like you did, like in the studio, where there's been quite a few of us all in different little booths, but all being able to like look at each other, and then a producer and a director in a separate place. It's all really good fun.
Is there a facility like that in Nashville?
Yeah, there's quite a few. Yeah, quite a lot of studios that do that kind of thing. I've worked in a few of them. But you know, like Nashville is Music City, there are so many studios. So
Yeah.
But it's different recording voices to recording music. Everything is different about that. The setup of the mics, the proximity, the mics that you use, you know.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been an interesting evening.
A lot of fun. Thank you.
Yeah. And we alluded earlier that we are changing to a 30-minute format from an hour-long format for those of you watching. We think it's going to find, we think we're going to find it a lot easier, and we might get a little faster at things if we have to cram it all in. But sometimes we're going to go an hour, like tonight. We're already 52 minutes in and on a half-hour show. So we're in overtime. But I don't see any more questions on YouTube.
We had some questions about where to go and eat
Yeah,
and
I
see
saw
things in
that.
Key Largo, which we answered. Cheryl's in there too.
I mean, how long are they going to be there for? Because there are a lot of good restaurants.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff. So yeah.
So anyway, thank you guys for being on here. And Kim, again, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Sorry to keep you up so late. What time is
That's
it there
all right.
now? 12:20?
Yes, 12:30.
Way past your bedtime.
Champagne.
Nick told me that you were trying to stay on Central Time anyway, so you won't have that much jet lag.
I've not been going to bed before 1:30 anyway, so.
All right. Well, thank you both for being on here. And as always, next show will be February. What's the next show in February, Jordan? And February 7th. And what is it? Oh, yeah. Reedsy is going to be with us next month. Ricardo Fayette with Reedsy, with a bunch of new gadgets and toys for authors. And that's going to be a lot of fun. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Down Island Publishing, Aurora Publicity, Pirate Radio. How Not to Sail, yes. And I'm sure there's a couple more. I miss one or two every week, or every month. So anyway, thank you guys for being on with us, and for all you watching, thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for the great questions.